Hi, welcome to your next challenge entitled Get Word Count. You are to create a function that takes a string and returns the word count. The string will be a sentence. See the examples below as usual. Count the words in each string parameter and note that they match the output value given. 1, 2, 3, 4 is 4. I think that's very clear. So we'll go over to the coding section. Now is your turn to do this. Pause the video and think, then code. If you get stuck, your hint will be that we've essentially already did this same problem with a slight parameter change, but in essence it's very similar to a problem that we recently solved. And that would be the problem with the dashes where we were counting word syllables. Think about it. What's different here? It's essentially the same thing. You're given a string, and before, instead of spaces, right, we just had dashes, and the text parts were to represent syllables. They weren't words, they were syllables. In this case, we have words and spaces between them. So it's just the same thing, right? But we're changing. Do you remember that special function we used last time? String split, and we gave it a character, right? And for our dash one, remember, single quotes for characters, double quotes for strings. We used the dash for the syllable problem. So what do you think we'd use here? Yep, space. And so if you recall, that split method returns us an array of strings that holds the tokens that result from splitting the string by whatever delimiter you give it. So we're going to have this string array that's populated with, index 0 just, index 1 and, index 2 example, etc. So again, when you have an array, how do you know how many values are in it? With arrays, we know we have a length property. So this should give us a value, and we need to return it because the method's expecting an integer. And I think this does it for us. Let's check. There you go. Nice. So yeah, good, very clear one-liner for you. We got to use this split method again, and isn't it nice that they make these things? You can kind of see the power of that, right? We essentially did the same thing. We solved two completely different problems, and we just tweaked a parameter to it to solve it differently. And that's sort of the power of breaking these solutions out into separate functions, that you can reuse them and use them to solve multiple problems. And there's a lot of power in that. So you should be doing that too. You could imagine if every time we had a problem like this, we were implementing split ourselves. We're essentially coding that every time, and that's very wasteful. So this is good. You could have done it the roll your own method, where you were doing a loop over the characters in the string, and you were sort of looking for space characters and noting whenever you encountered one, you sort of noted that as a word entry and you increment some count, or you could do it like that too. That's fine. Again, I like to use these when they're available. Don't reinvent the wheel. Use something that's heavily tested and very likely to be error-free. So yeah, the only other catch with this one was we relied on them sending us good input. Again, we didn't do any sort of error checking, but you could imagine that when you just call split by the space character, one of these word tokens that could come back, if it just said JQZIP, that's clearly not a dictionary word. So for simplification purposes, we're assuming that these tokens are automatically going to be words. But if you wanted to nitpick and throw a string example with things that aren't words, this would definitely not return what you would want it to. If you strictly wanted to say only return true words only. So that's a catch. We're just going with this simplified example. And yeah, as usual, hit me up with questions and comments, and thank you for watching.